Welcome back to the Significant Recruiting Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Rogers. Today's guest is someone who has shaped NCAA recruiting conversations for decades. Hall of Fame volleyball coach Ruth N. Nelson. She's coached at Houston, LSU, and Iowa, helped guide the U.S. national team, and mentored some of the greatest names in volleyball history. But Ruth's influence goes far beyond the sidelines. She understands the recruiting process from the inside out, and has spent her life helping athletes and families navigate it with wisdom, honesty, and vision. From developing programs like the BYOP and GoKids to coaching athletes who became Olympians and Hall of Famers, Ruth has lived every side of recruiting, and she's here to share with you the lessons, strategies, and truths that every family needs to hear. So grab a pen. You'll want to take some notes. Let's jump in with one of the game's true innovators, Ruth N. Nelson. Coach Ruth Nelson, you and I just had a great conversation on coaching and your history, and I love everything you're doing with the little ones and teaching them how to be their best versions of themselves, but also how to be athletes, to have discipline. I want to get a little bit into recruiting with you because it's such a huge topic in our world, and I feel like everything's going to change in the next 2 or 3 years. I don't even know if we're going to have an NCAA in the next 2 or 3 years. And I can guarantee that it's going to look a lot different than it does now. You're able to be at 30,000 feet like I am and be able to look at this a little bit differently now. What are you seeing in the world of recruiting as you're seeing these little ones get older and older? You've been with a lot of these little ones since they were 4, and now they're in high school and some are off to college. What are your thoughts on recruiting right now and how parents should be looking at recruiting, and when should they even be thinking about recruiting?
It was about maybe 10 years ago, a friend of mine who was in the telecom business with me, we started a service called Collegiate Athlete Educational Program. And we put together checklists for freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors before the NCAA ever did it. And we presented it with one of my former colleagues, Carol Cars, who used to be the AD at Illinois. We went to the NCAA and presented, but nobody would sign an NDA. Okay. So when somebody don't want to sign an NDA, that means they're going to look at what you're doing. And if they like what you're doing, they're going to do it. So they saw what we'd done with the checklists and all that. And because we had the first intro was free. And then you had another workshop, which we call it Workshop 2. And it had a lot to do with the financial side, how to recruit, how to do. And it's really, how do you develop the relationship between the parent and the athlete? And we would go through the introduction and they would have to fill out something and then they would turn it over and then they would switch papers. And the parent would go, I didn't know you wanted to go out of state. And then, Mom, I did, but you sounded like you wanted me to go to where you graduated from. So this introduction did that. So when we did that first, that kind of introduced it to me. Okay, so the NCAA, then they start doing their freshman, sophomore, junior, took it from us. Of course, they fired that guy, did all the whole thing. And just never, for me, I'm a creator. I can't go someplace and stay there for 10 years. Yeah. Andy was at you. I admire those people. But me, I like to create, get it going, and I'm off to another topic. So Kathy DeBoer said to me, Ruth, this is COVID. What are you doing? What's going on with your training? I said, Kathy, I've been doing Skype training for 10 years. She goes, oh, I guess Zoom is okay. I said, no, Zoom is great because I can do I can flip up here, I can share this screen. Right. And so when you really start thinking about the recruiting aspect, I was doing that in 95. And I'll say one of the first things that I said, and that was, get a Gmail account that has your name and your graduation date in it at gmail.com. Okay, I said this in 1995. Okay. And as a matter of fact, the little girl in the pink, she still has hers. But the point was, so the college coach gets an email, everybody's texting all that, but sooner or later I don't know how anybody, I haven't figured that out yet, how anybody keeps their work that organized on their phone unless they sync their phone and their computer together. Yeah. Because you're looking through a lot of folders, okay, with your phone. Okay, so over here I said, if a college coach gets something that says 2032, they're going to put you on the back burner. But when it comes to 2032, you're going to be the first one because they're going to forget those other names unless they were on that 5 to 10% list. So
That's right.
So my thinking with this educational program is a nonprofit. And I did some seminars. I certified facilitators. That's what they were called. And I was way ahead of the recruiting game at that time. And yes, you were doing video, but we were doing video. I started doing Zoom. One college coach says, hey, Ruth, I want to take a look at this. I said, I'll do something open on Facebook, which means everybody can see it. So it's not just for you, but anybody. So I'd Zoom that in. They go, okay, well, I definitely am interested in her. Okay. So this is, 1995 to 2000. So this is way ahead doing streaming and everything. And Skype was the biggest thing, but the problem would always go out on it and all that, but I still used it. And a lot of the international people still use Skype, but now they've gone over to all of it. So recruiting. So what is it that I thought that you needed to be doing? And that is that you needed to have those things. And I'll never forget, it probably was like maybe 5 years before COVID. And Russ came to Dallas and he was at Lone Star, which is probably the biggest qualifier in Dallas. And he's over there and he's got his paper. He's checking off. Who's taking walk to the kids? What are the kids doing during timeout? What are the kids?
Not paper on a phone, actual paper.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. He did just paper.
Yeah.
And in reality, you have to look at that that's why I say the separation between, I call it a relationship that you have with your parent. Okay. And this is my thought was, as a freshman, 25% should be done by the players, 75% by the parent. Sophomore, 50-50. Junior year, 75% kid, 25% parent. Senior year, the kid does 100%. You start doing this when you're in 7th and 8th grade, you start thinking about where I might like, but the parents doing all the other about education and keeping their grades. But it's always this. I say doors are open when it comes down to two players. The player that has better grades has some chance many times of getting in that university and catching the coach's eye, not because they're smart, but maybe because they were smart enough to make good grades. And then you can find out. So it should be make the best grades you can, stay healthy, and you'll have fun. And if any of those are distracted somehow, these two, you're not going to have fun because you're not having fun when you're hurt. I'm sorry. You're not having fun if you don't make good grades, because I guarantee your parents are going to be on your tail end about it. So almost have to figure out, because everybody always talks about how can you have fun playing? We have fun playing by keeping the ball in play. You don't have fun playing by serving the ball over 17 times and no one gets the ball. So it relates to the recruiting side. How do you have fun? You make great grades and you stay healthy. So what's happening now, kids, by whatever pressure it may be, are getting injured or staying injured more often. So you have to figure out, what is it? So I always say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5, I need surgery. 1, I got a hangnail. Figure out what your body is telling you. Then you'll understand what you can and can't do. And to me, if you ask every great athlete, they're going to tell you that I need to take time off. But an athlete that's not, and I consider great, it doesn't mean that they're Olympic, because you can be great at something and not have won the national championship. Somebody said Caitlin Clark is not the best because she never won a national championship. That's got nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
There's a lot of other aspects that have to do with great. So finding that medium. Now, parent and the kid then has to be able to tell the parent where they are. And a lot of times, because we've had to tough it out during our time, because we never had trainers, it doesn't mean that we were doing what was right for our body. We did it because we wanted to play. But now there is an extreme, okay? Got a kid that has shin splints. Doctor says lay out 2.5 weeks. Ari says wear high heels. Put you at a different angle, takes the stress off. Kids, come on. You can still serve. You can still set the ball. You can still do you in here. Maybe you're not going to be jumping. Maybe you're not going to be turned. But it's gone to the extreme. Oh, my God, you got a cushion. You got to do it. I'm still sane, at least I think I am. And I've been hit in the head by Patty Dowdell and Flo and every single person ever been knocked. And I saw stars and got back up. And I'm not saying that you should do this, but I'm just saying a parent has to figure out where the parameter is. So now let's relate it to recruiting. Okay. The kid must call coaches. The parent.
Thank you.
Call the coaches. The parent may encourage the player. I'll never forget Ebony Nwanabu, who was the number one recruited Nebraska. She visited there. She ended up going to USC 2 years and transferred to Texas. We were on everybody got mad at me because I had her set up recruit calls to 20 schools because they were very interested. Okay. So I had it down like 5 o'clock, 5:15, 5:30, 5:45. And we did that once a week. We get on the phone with Russ. Russ says, this sounds like you're getting ready to date my son.
Speed dating.
She had her questions and she'd gone on their website. Because to me, when a kid is getting interested in a college, getting thousands. Okay, when I was at Iowa, I had 1,000 on my list. And the one person that I talked to more often was Kristen Focal, who ended up going and playing basketball at Stanford. She was Dial America Award winner with Tiger Woods, okay? Her mom would be her and Tara because she says she wanted anybody else talking to her. I knew at Iowa our academics weren't as good as Stanford, but her mom let me because I just talked to her about recruiting. And I think the bottom line is this. I've got one kid right now. We're talking senior year. I said, there's still options, but they're limited.
That's right.
But it doesn't mean that you don't end up getting to the place that you will absolutely love. But I'm going to tell you this. When we started CAEP, we said, you should be thinking about this school if you weren't going to play volleyball.
Right.
It's the place that you want to be for 4 years. One of my Gen Z kids, Coach Ruth, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'll go to this school, and if I don't like it, I'm going to go in the portal.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. So my point is, you go and win a national championship. Somebody's recruited you for 3 to 4 years. How do you leave that school?
You don't know.
What's happened to the loyalty? Guess where it starts? Somebody who used to be in 2 clubs in 7 years now is in 7 clubs for 7 years. So
my daughter just went through that. Exactly.
So there has to be, this is what I believe in club, because they'll always ask this question. Do you think I need to play at the top club in order to be recruited? Okay, that's one. Second, do I need to play in the club that wins the national champion or goes to the junior national championship? Okay, next is, do I need to play in a local club where I can afford it? I can get good coaching. We're not going to go to nationals. And I always say, then guess what? Your work may be a little bit more in a little bit different direction because you got to gain the interest of those. And I'm going to tell you this, watching a streaming is so much easier than shoving in that VHS.
You bet it is.
I watch so many of those.
Yeah.
The DVDs and one of my athletes started this. It was 18 years ago. She put her DVD and put one of the popcorns in it and enjoy your popcorn while you watch me play. That's
a smart recruiting. I like that.
Oh, no, we did all kinds of stuff like that.
That's
so,
right.
and now it's really the highlight. Okay. It's like huddle because kids can now pick they do that. But high schools have to realize they need to let those kids share those huddles because I know they don't want to see that because of recruiting. Since when does 2 high school teams playing each other mean the difference of your job? I'm not sure. There might be a few, but not many. So my question is, are we putting all the emphasis on winning or are we putting the emphasis on player development?
Right.
I go in all these groups and I listen. I answered one time and my friend from Canada says, Ruth, there's 200 threads on what you responded. I go, I did you. I didn't even see that. So I quit doing it. So what I started was my Ruthopedia.com. It's in the eyes of me. This is what I see, because I don't want to go and now I promote my own stuff, but so it comes back to the recruiting. How much visibility and how soon? I did this with these little ones 12 years ago, but we're talking 34, okay? So we're talking 4 years old. And now they're 10 years old, 9 and 10 years old. And I think to myself, I was ahead. Kathy DeBoer says, you're 10 years ahead of everybody else. I said, yeah, but you know how frustrating that is? Because it's like people don't even want to talk about that. They just go, Ruth, I don't have time. Nobody has time now. Nobody has time to thank you. You call customer service and you say, can I do this and this? I said, can I speak to someone who speaks English so that I can understand? And they hang up on me. What kind of customer service is that? So think of this. Think of how many college coaches don't respond to kids who send emails. They have no idea if the college is interested or not.
Okay.
I understand. Hey, don't tell me about numbers. I had 1,000 on my list. And I had one assistant coach, 4 plus a 50 plus graduates. At Houston, I didn't even have an assistant coach for 8 years. I had an assistant.
It's crazy.
See, so when people say that, I think it's like my boss at Special Olympics, who was my boss at telecommunication. He was the former AD at Northwestern in Chicago. He was a former SMU. He was a former associate AD at Stanford when Title IX went in, okay? So he's someone who he said, work smart. Work smart. I says, okay, I'm working smart. He goes, no, you're working long.
Yeah.
You're not working smart.
Yep.
It's so for athletes to say, and I always say this, have you sent your schedule to those coaches that have been on your list
right
before the tournament? As soon as you get the schedule, because now they get the schedules out early. Okay, we're done with the first day. Did you go back to your room, did you go and send something out that here's my schedule for today? Are you on top of the amount of time that you spend so that you can get that coach's attention? The coach very rarely will be walking by and just happen to see you. They might see you because a coach like myself might be on the court and I see somebody and I go, Molly, when she was at Cincinnati, hey, come take a look at this kid. Or I'll take a video and I'll send it out to 15 college coaches and they go, Ruth, my God, she's over the net. I said, yeah, she's over the net like this. And she's playing middle and she's not recruited and she's not committed to anybody. Okay, Ruth. So it takes people to help. And I call it, you've got to have your group of people that you assign as an athlete certain aspects of your recruiting. But you are responsible for making sure you do what you're supposed to do. If you're supposed to be going and studying, you can't be doing the recruiting. So you should allow yourself your 1 hour, 2 or 3 times a week, and maybe it's less in freshman year, sophomore, but you have to do more now in freshman and sophomore because now they can call you in June and in sophomore year. So I think that changes. Now, the NIL side, I'll tell you what, if parents can monitor an Instagram account, and then when they get to high school, let them do it. But you can monitor what goes on. Kids find all kinds of ways. But I don't think in reality that you should spend hours and hours, but I think it should be of the kids playing soccer, the kids doing this, they're getting their all-around skills, they're in the talent show, they're in this. I think coaches want all-around players. Okay? Coaches want ones that have played other sports. I don't think you have to specialize until you're like 14, 15 years old, assuming that you're wanting to go big time. And I say big time, say top 50 schools.
Yeah.
But I just think that, so for me, educating parents at this age, I think the hardest thing is parents are afraid they're going to get behind. So they think more is better. And I call it, as much as I hate to use this term, drinking the Kool-Aid, because
they do.
All the Christians and all Jimmy and all those guys who drank the Kool-Aid, but they think it's the same flavor. It's not. The flavor is different for every kid. Like if I've got a kid that's growing, then I've got to pay attention to what that kid is doing in jumping, because that brings the whole performance training side into.
Yeah.
And I've got a 10-year-old that's doing some performance training, but she's doing coordination, agility, balance, and all that kind of stuff, which I think is fantastic. Because if they're not getting that in another sport, like she's quit one of her main sports, so she's not getting that movement out on the field and stuff. You need to supplement that somehow, but you've got to learn to limit. Okay, this is what an 8-year-old said to me. I said, did you jump up your 3 minutes every day? Coach Ruth, I don't have time. I says, okay, 24 hours, okay? How many hours do you sleep? She says 12. Okay, how many you have left? 12. Okay, how many hours do you need for eating? Okay, this is this. I said, how many hours you going to school? Okay. I said, you got 5 hours left. You don't have 3 minutes to jump rope. In reality, this takes time to go through that process that I just did. But if you're asking a kid to be committed to something, and it can't be something they go and they say, okay, Mom, I don't like this anymore. You committed to this 8-week program.
Right.
You got to do it, and you got to show, okay, don't rolling eyes, all that kind of stuff. I go, don't you dare roll your eyes to your parents. And you must even think of doing it to me. Because it's all comes from my background. You said it came from your background.
Right.
What can parents do? They can be aware. They can be aware. I just looked at your volleyball recruiting book. I didn't, is that recent?
The journal? Yeah, I'm going to send you one. Yeah.
Because I think what you've been doing is something unique. And I wish that I would have seen. It's almost like you think you're on the internet and you know what's going on, and you really don't. And Sue says, you got to listen to this guy. He's doing some great stuff. And if Sue's saying that from the recruiting side, because she knows what's going on in the recruiting side at the very top level.
She sure does. Yeah. Yeah.
And the fact is that a lot of stuff they are doing, people are using, just like you said. I'll listen to it. You're using it. Why do you need to recreate something that's already created?
Right.
But what you've done is, with your journal, is what I have the kids do. When they go home, they're to write the keywords down, write the things that they did better this time, write the things they did better at the end of the session than they did at the beginning, and write the things down that they need to practice before they come the next week.
You and I are so like-minded, because that was the whole idea of why I wrote my first book, and then why I've done the journals, is because I keep having the same conversation you're having with kids. You've got 5 hours left in your day and you can't jump rope for 3 minutes. How badly do you want to be a better volleyball player? How badly do you want to jump higher? So for me, my purpose with recruiting, athleticism, being a great kid, it all comes down to executive function skills. And I want kids to learn, and that's what the journals do, is I'm going to set 3 goals this week. 3 goals. Not that I'm going to win the lottery, not that I'm going to run 50 miles, but can I get up every day and make my bed? Can I have my homework done before 8 o'clock, have it in my backpack, have it by the door, so I'm not worrying about it when I go to sleep? And then can I find that 3 minutes to jump rope? Can I find that 3 minutes to do 20 push-ups and 20 crunches and make my body stronger? And then we add the recruiting component to that. Can you send one email and follow it up with a phone call to one coach you're interested in? You've done the research. You're telling them why you want their school. Now we're talking about 3 or 4 goals that took you 15 minutes
right
a day to do. How much better are you than your competition because you took that 15 minutes?
There's plenty of people writing them.
That's right. So for me, I want kids to understand this doesn't have to be your life. It doesn't have to be a job, but you do have to be the CEO of it. It's your business. This is your life. As much as you want them to recruit you, you're also recruiting them. You're trying to figure out, where do I want to spend these 4 years of my life, which are probably going to be the most impactful 4 years of your young life. So you and I are so like-minded. I love the way you coach, and I love the way you teach, and I love the way your mind works. And Coach, if there's anything I can ever do for your little ones or your program, I hope you don't even hesitate. You just call me and say, Matt, I need your help. If I can send you books, if you want me to do classes, I will do it. I love what you're doing. And thank you for doing this today. I asked for an hour and you gave me almost 2 hours today.
Oh, no, but I have one thing that
yes, please.
is really important.
Please, I want you to talk about everything you're doing and where they can find you too.
Parent will talk about club in their club coach.
Yes.
Or their school coach.
Yes.
And I said, this is very important. You put a sheet of paper, a Post-it, whether you've got a dry board. I want you to let your athlete take 10 minutes. And I said, and maybe you should take 10 minutes on your own board. And I want you to put up everything up there that you want to complain about. You got 10 minutes. Hey,
I love
I
it.
want you to put them up there. You can complain.
Love it.
You can call it whatever kind of session you want. But you put it up there. I said, now, I want you, then you're done. No more complaining. But I want you to look at that list. And I said, about 90% of that list you don't even control. So my question is, why are you complaining about something that you can't control? And this is what this age group is. I'm going to send my mom to the principal because the coach is not playing me and the coach should be fired. This isn't the way you do it. You put it on the board and you recognize what things you can do. Now, you may change something about your attitude because rolling eyes and not showing up and doing this and looking in the stand, that's not teamwork. So my question is, can you change that? If you don't change it, do you think that doesn't affect some other people? Now, if I'm talking to the rest of the team, I'm saying you shouldn't let it. But that's one of your complaints. So you take the complaint off because you can control that you don't listen. So to me, everybody needs a board.
Love it.
10 minutes. That's it. You're done for the day.
It's everything. And I'm finding myself, I write a blog every week and I'm finding I write about that as much as I write about anything else. Of all the things that we try and control that we really don't even need to put our energy into. How do I get better? If I'm not looking in the mirror and going, what can I do to make my relationship with my coach better? What can I do to make my abilities better mentally, physically, so I can help my team in different ways? If we're not starting there, and I think we wait too long to get to 17, 18, 19, where we try to start instilling that message. I think when you're doing it at 4 and 5 and 6, and you're getting them to think, I can't control that, but I can control this. I can get better. I can make mom and dad happier because my room is clean. I can make my teammates happy.
Just remember this. Just because I work hard doesn't mean that I'm going to get on the court. So just understand, no matter what I do in recruiting, it doesn't matter if I email every single week. I send a great highlight every single week. It doesn't mean they're going to recruit you.
Yeah.
It isn't about the most important thing is that Tom Lander Jr. learned from me. He says, Ruth, I don't understand how you can continue raising money, trying to get sponsors when everybody says no. I said, sooner or later, someone will say yes.
Yeah.
And it isn't easy to hear no, because of course he'd never heard no before. Even your Coach Lander said life is different. But
I can only imagine.
You want to hear no instead of nothing. If you say no, then you move on, but you don't take them off the radar because some things change in their dynamics of their team, or maybe the coach also is learning at the same time. Because there isn't anything that every single one of those coaches aren't learning. They are learning. They may not be admitting it, but listen, they are learning.
You'll love this because I tell the kids I work with, I say, you've got 3 goals when you're reaching out to a coach. And all 3 of these are victories for you. Number 1 is they give you any kind of feedback. You get a college coach to tell you what they think of your ability and maybe give you some advice on what to work on. Number 2, they like you and they want to follow you. They want to start recruiting you and get to know you better. And number 3 is they tell you they're not going to recruit you or they don't have a spot for you. That doesn't mean they won't have a spot for you in a year. Things can change, but it allows you, that's a victory to say, okay, I learned something there. Maybe I can put them on the shelf for a little bit. I can put my energy into other schools and they did me a favor. I say, it's like dating. If you ask somebody to go to the movies with you and they say, no, I don't want to go to the movies. That doesn't mean there's not somebody better out there that wants to go to the movies with you. But now your energy.
Doesn't mean they don't change either.
That's right.
They might change, but
they might come after you in a year.
Now, last thing on recruiting, I would say this. If a parent in a situation is not happy with what a club coach or a recreational coach or any coach, I think the most important thing is that to really teach that kid. Because if a kid comes to me and says, "Oh, coach, you're not going to believe what my coach," I says, "Don't complain. Ask me how I would approach your coach if I needed more information." And that is that every situation, every club, every recruiting phone call, you should learn at least one thing, maybe more about yourself, or maybe about the process, or maybe about them.
Right.
Jim Coleman used to go to clinics, everybody's clinics. He's there writing things down. He said, "You can't learn one thing, then you're not listening."
That's right. That's right. Coach, thank you so much. If no one would ever ask me, if somebody came to me and said, "We want to rebuild youth sports in the United States," I'd say, let's get Ruth Nelson in a room. Let's start there. So thank you for doing this. I've been enjoying it.
And thanks again.
What a gift it is to learn from Ruth Nelson. She's not only coached legends and built winning programs, but she's also given families and athletes the kind of perspective that makes recruiting clearer, more purposeful, and more attainable. Ruth reminds us that recruiting is about finding the right fit, creating the right opportunities, and not letting money or influence affect the ultimate goal of getting a great education while playing the game you love. Her BYOP and GoKids programs show that development starts early, and her decades of college coaching prove that the habits you build now carry into every opportunity you'll ever have. If you're a recruit or a parent, I hope you take Ruth's wisdom to heart. Be proactive, be prepared, and remember, the right college fit is about so much more than just a roster spot. For more tools, resources, and guidance on your recruiting journey, visit CoachMattRogers.com. Until next time, stay focused, stay humble, and keep chasing significance.